All right, everyone, welcome to another weekly news recap of Invest Ed. We're here to talk about hot topics in the news relative to investments, trading, or just companies in general, as well as things going on in the government. So we're going to jump right in. Pretty hot topic this week and weekend has been the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So apparently it's approved by the FDA.
So the FDA went live this week and they decided to pass it as it was over their 50% threshold, I believe.
Yeah.
Do we call it was 66% or 72% efficacy? Something like that.
72% in the US, 64 in South Africa.
So now what I find interesting with this is that they started their studies pretty late, so they don't really have that much data to begin with in comparison to the other vaccines. So they're kind of playing catch up, right?
Yeah, I think they started in last summer, or I know they stopped taking patients in December. I'm trying to find that data point here. So September to December, they had about 45,000 volunteers before they cut it off.
Interesting. So now what we have to not to be concerned, but what we have to keep in mind is that there's a lot of variants going on now that are coming up, and we gotta wait and see if this is going to be even have some efficacy towards those new variants, because they didn't have the data to come up with this new vaccine, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're already saying that the variants kind of blunt vaccines, that they apparently can bypass this. Let me try to find exactly where it is. That they can bypass the protein replication or something like that. Let's see. So that strain called B1351, or the South African variant, has mutations in its exterior spike proteins, and current vaccines don't train the body's immune system to look for that spike. So this vaccine, and probably all the vaccines that are out right now, are only geared towards the US or the UK variants. So we got these South African and Brazilian variants, and I'm sure there's going to be more. I'm sure that there's going to be more, and they're probably going to be stronger and mutate further. So I don't know. I mean, no one's admitting that this is an end all be all. Like, this is going to be something that's probably going to be around with us for a long, long time, kind of like the flu. But I guess the anticipation is that they're going to be able to treat it quicker.
Yeah, and because it just got passed, I think the U.S. agreed to buy 100 million doses from it.
Right, and I think they're getting 2 to 20 million at first.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So about 60% of the participants were white and 13% were black. Now, in contrast to the Pfizer vaccine, you have that as a 90% of efficacy of the current variant, and their percentages, I think, were closer to 80% as far as the white population.
And that's what 2 shots over a course of some period of time.
That's 2 shots. I think Pfizer was 21 days, 27 or 28 for the Moderna.
Yeah. that's before it becomes effective. Is that what that 28 or 21 days is?
That's what they were saying. Yeah.
Right. So there's still a big risk window.
Correct. And I think the Johnson & Johnson, you were mentioning,
it's the same. Before. It's 28 days. Yeah. But that's interesting, though. I mean, I guess I would wonder, what if you caught COVID during that 28 days? Would that nullify your vaccine? And then, I don't really know. I guess there's still a lot to learn about this.
Yeah, I think we just have to let time pass, and then we'll have a better understanding. Just like COVID itself, it's been over a year, and we're still learning about it, but we kind of understand it more a little bit now than we did before. So I just one more point. I thought it was interesting that they're using a family of from a family of viruses like that cause pink eye as a basis of this.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically doing what they do with flu shot, right? They're just giving you some controlled derivative of the virus to allow your body to, I guess, build an immunity to it, and then that's it.
Right. And the virus is not equipped with the proteins to rewrite your
Yeah,
DNA. So
right.
you'll be okay in that sense.
We hope. Yeah, we'll see.
Anyways,
I mean, it kind of
go ahead.
quickly touches on the point that we made last week about how some people could get it again, though.
Yeah,
You know?
we have to
So
wait and see how this plays out. But at least we have another vaccine in the hopes of in our arsenal for
yeah,
hopefully combating this thing.
yep,
So on another subject, we have a stimulus update this week.
yeah.
I think the finally, right? Something. So the House of Representative passed the 1.9 trillion bill. I think they were meeting Friday night into Saturday morning, which is kind of crazy. I was watching the thing till like 2 a.m. Now this still has to go through the Senate, but it's looking promising so far. So what it entails is you have $1,400 if you make less than 75,000. And now, because it has to go through the Senate, they're obviously going to debate this back and forth. And I believe the Senate Republicans proposed a counteroffer of 600 billion instead of the 1.9 trillion. So what they are concerned about is that they don't want to be giving, basically printing all this money and giving it out to everybody that's in the country. Because the last stimulus, I don't think was targeted towards U.S. citizens. I think it was pretty much everybody. I don't quote me on this. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that they're targeting people with Social Security numbers now. So it's trying to be more specific as to who this money goes to.
Yeah.
Which I think was the main driving point of the Republicans. So now we just got to wait and see. Now this needs to pass all around and get distributed by or before March 14th, which I think is when the unemployment benefits pretty much get taken away. And that could cause some issues to a lot of people and does affecting the economy as well. So we gotta wait and see, but we'll keep you guys updated.
Yeah, if they're basing this on tax returns from 2020, I mean, they have to understand there's a lot of people that maybe not have filed tax yet. You don't have to file tax until what, the 15th of April?
Yeah, so I believe that they're basing it off their latest tax return that was filed. So if you hadn't filed your 2020 in this year, then they're going to go based on your 2019. So to that point, it would be beneficial if you made more than the 75,000, or you believe you made more money 2020 as opposed to 2019, to wait to file your 2020 taxes this year. You can even file for an extension, which I don't believe costs anything. You just have to file the paperwork to push out your filing date for the 2020 returns if you had to, because it seems like they're pushing this as far as they can. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with this sort of loophole thing, but it's getting close to that April 15th mark.
Okay.
So it might be beneficial in that sense. So now let's look at another one, another news.
Well, I think part of that bill wasn't there something I believe you had mentioned about minimum wage.
Oh yeah, so there was a $15 minimum wage that the Democrats were trying to pass. I don't think that went through. It didn't make Biden happy at all.
Yeah, I don't get that completely. Like, it seems, I mean, obviously it's to the benefit of those working minimum wage jobs, but how is that going to affect the economy? And also, how is that going to, it has no effect aside from emotional or psychological effect on people that don't make minimum wage. Like, like I'm an engineer and I make, a little more than twice minimum wage, although, I'm salary, so it's not really hourly. But even still, if you're making $40 an hour, but the person that doesn't have a college degree and is just chooses or is just working at, McDonald's or whatever, and their minimum wage keeps going up, but your wage doesn't go up in a proportional reflection of that, that's going to demoralize a lot of people. Like, what you're basically saying, like, as the minimum wage keeps going up, it becomes less and less critical to struggle to get those higher end jobs. And then also, you got a lot of people that work in emergency services that start out not much higher than this. There's not a lot of incentive aside from, I guess, the persona of your career. Like, yeah, if you want to be a police officer, if you want to be a firefighter, or you want to be, an EMT, like, yeah, you have that kind of dignity that you're building up in that respect. But if you're starting out at a couple dollars more an hour than this, there's really not a lot of incentive.
Right. So I believe that by raising the minimum wage, their immediate thought is that you're going to be, quote unquote, injecting money into the economy. That's the thought behind the stimulus even. It doesn't mean that it actually works that way. So if you think about this more in depth, by raising the minimum wage, you're basically telling employers that you're going to pay people more by default, and that's just going to raise your insurance and your unemployment,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
So they're going to
Which
raise
is
the prices of your products. It has to. I
right,
mean, that's all counted into, how much things cost.
right. That's your cost of business. What it costs you to have a business, which you put into your product, like you said. So there's like a ripple effect to this minimum wage raise that most people don't think about, or some don't even care. But it will increase the cost of goods. Things are going to cost a lot more. Um, and that's going to basically nullify the increase in wages. And to your point, that people who are in these other positions and jobs, or have gone through schooling to get these higher paying jobs, are going to be demoralized. Yeah, because your wages don't increase the same rate.
Yeah, and you still have student loans. I mean, obviously, that's another topic that we're going through, and or we have gone through, and that we're going through in the government with this student loan forgiveness. But that's, I mean, I had actually that brings up even more topics about student loan forgiveness, but we'll talk about it another time. Because we'll get an update on that maybe next week, see where that's going.
Yeah, then to that topic though, you can see that people that I think I remember seeing, yeah, so 100 billion in student loans are held by people over the age of 60.
Yeah,
And that's terrible.
if we start canceling student loans, that's fine, but more people are going to need to take out student loans every year. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I guess we'll see. But like I said, if I have to take out $50,000 in student loans to get a job that annually pays me, a little over double what someone's making a minimum wage, what's the point? It's going to take me 20 years to pay off those student loans. Whereas this person that is making minimum wage is going to get a raise every year. Yeah. So I hypothetically, but they could ultimately balance out, but the rest of the loans and this and that, and I don't know.
Right. And
kind of,
now on the flip side of that though, if you're looking for further education to get a higher paying job, which in turn is in comparison to the higher minimum wage, they're also the hands-on job stuff. So like plumbers, electricians,
yeah,
things like that,
yeah.
their salaries are going up through the roof right now because there isn't that many people.
Yep.
Like I remember seeing a recent documentary. I forget from where. I'll try to find that and put a link in the description. But they were talking about how some plumbers were making, I think in Seattle, were making over $200,000 But their problem is that the companies who are hiring these people that were licensed and such, they were having trouble finding people that met their standards. So to be in part of a union and such, you need to not have felonies, for example. You you have to be well dressed and have some sort of appearance, which makes sense because you're representing their company. But a lot of people that they were finding, they were coming with ripped pants or shirts, they don't have a clean face, a clean shaven face, etc. So it's also
Mhm.
part of the image. Um, I just thought that was interesting. So there's definitely a demand for jobs like that, where they're paying higher than those jobs that require education to begin with,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
puts you into more debt.
That's something I've long struggled to understand and wish that maybe I had made some different choices when I was younger. I could have been a union carpenter making double what I am now and not have any debt. And then there's so many benefits to being in a union. They give you housing funds. It's like almost like the military.
Yeah, but I think you
It's
have to
crazy.
start young though, like you said, but if you
Yes,
start
yeah.
young, then you're in good standing because it would take you 5 to 8 years, I forget,
It's
to be able to get through that kind of pay because you have to go through the union, right?
it's 5 years, but I mean, I know a guy who got grandfathered in. It's also like you could, if you know someone that's in the union, they could, if they're leaving, they can give you their spot.
Interesting.
There's a lot of loopholes in it, but anyway, let's move on.
So on the topic of debt, um, so I found this article. They're saying that the household debt rose $14 trillion for the first time.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So if it rose 600 billion in the fourth quarter, and it's also showing that in 2008, I think it peaked to 1.5 trillion, and now we're 14 trillion. It's pretty crazy. So let's take a look here. So the total debt of people of ages 18 to 29 rose to a record of 1 trillion, 1.04 trillion. And the student debt increased to 1.5 trillion. And at the end of 2018. And like we said before, 100 billion of that is of people of the age of 60 and over, which is really terrible because they're pretty close to retirement and they're still paying their loans.
They hope they are.
So what do you think is causing all this? Like this market rise of housing and so many people taking out so much debt?
There's a lot. I feel there's a lot of marketing out there that pushes it, and there's also, I mean, really, it's probably all comes down to the whole American image, the American dream, and I think
Owning a
there's
house, you
probably
mean?
yeah, I think there's a deeper psychological issue here where we have this image in this country and probably just the world in all, but especially in this country where oh, you need to have this at a certain point and you need to have that and you need to this is impressive, and it's like this whole ego thing, which I struggle with too. I don't have a house yet, and I think about it all the time, and I'm just like, damn, am I not this level of person because I don't have a house? But then again, I also don't have the debt of a house, so it's hard to juggle. I think a lot of people fit into the rat race where they just want to get the house and then I'll figure it out later, or and debt is a necessary part of life. I feel like for most people, for everyone. I mean, businesses have debt, government has tons of debt. It's just a necessary evil. But I don't think that. I think there's probably just more home buyers. Again, probably for the same reason.
Yeah. But when I was, I think I mentioned this last week when I went and talked to a few realtors, or my wife and I were shopping around. It seems like it's almost like the same mentality or emotions that you see in the stock market, for example. as the price keeps going up and you're in the market to buy, you get this like fear of missing out kind of thing.
Right.
And it's helping drive the prices higher because people are just outbidding others by 20,000-30,000 over the asking price when the house is not even worth the asking price.
Yeah, that's silly.
But anyway, so to the point of what's driving the housing market, we have this article of lumber prices are soaring and a lot of tree growers miserable.
Yeah, this is kind of messed up.
Yeah. So just to do a quick recap on the article. So Joe Hopkins, he's a tree grower, and he was interviewed and asked, "You must be making a lot of money from the housing market rising, because that you need lumber to make houses." And Joe ended up saying that, "No, I'm not making anything." So how can this be?
Yeah.
He owns 70,000 acres. I think you pointed out to me on the side that it's over 3 billion square feet. I
Yeah,
just
it's like
can't.
10 miles by 10 miles, something like that. It's ridiculous.
I can't even imagine. But but he's not making any profit from this rise. So according to the article, the ones that are making the money are the mills. Since last March when the markets bottomed out, excuse me, their shares have risen over 300% compared to the 75% climb of the S&P 500 index.
That's crazy.
And yeah, so Joe Hopkins, he also stated that if I'm not sustainable in the business, I can't keep the land. Everything's going up except the price of the timber. This is before the mills get it. Before they sell it, sorry. And yeah, they're the ones suffering, even though they're the ones supplying the product that's getting marked up on top of that. That's just something to bring up. I thought that was interesting as far as the housing market. So the timber prices have almost doubled. I remember I mentioned last week too that I was getting a roofing quote.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was like 6 months ago, and the difference is almost doubled. It's insane.
I feel like that's part of the price gouging thing, though. I thought they put a ban against that. I guess maybe it's not being focused on, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's natural supply and demand. If there's more demand, you don't really need to make it more expensive. But I guess these mills are taking advantage of people. I mean, I don't really get that part.
Yeah. We're gonna have to keep an eye on this, though. I'm sure more things will come up.
If more, I was just thinking, if more people are buying or getting involved with housing, purchasing houses and putting themselves in debt, it's probably because they just assume like, oh, well, I don't have to pay for anything for a while because this the moratorium on mortgages is deferring until whatever date. That's probably part of the reason why. I mean, if you tell me, oh, it's like kind of getting a 0% interest credit card for the first year. You might get that credit card, rack up this bill, and then forget about it for a year, and then realize, crap, now I have a 29% APR, and I have to pay off this $10,000 shopping at at wherever for.
Yeah, and that's a mentality that gets you into trouble.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Anyway.
I wonder if the people who are taking the forbearance, the temporary one, if they do realize, obviously there are the cases that there is a need for not being able to pay your mortgage because of medicine, food, etc. But to those that are just doing it for the sake of trying to get ahead, I guess, or to get some kind of benefit out of it that don't really need it, I wonder if they actually understand that you have to pay it all back at once once this whole thing stops. Yeah. And so you also think about that the markets are going up. That means your taxes are going higher. And when you pay for your mortgage, the majority of the people, they use an escrow service. And through that escrow service, you're also paying your taxes. So you're not only not paying taxes, you're also not paying your mortgage. So your taxes are going to be all accumulated. Your mortgage is going to get tacked onto the last year of your mortgage, and that's going to increase your payments by monthly. So you're not only going to be paying everything you owe back, on top of that, you're going to be paying more monthly on top of the taxes that are going to be more because the houses around you are going to be worth more. It's
Right.
this is going to be a snowball that I'm very interested to see how it's going to play out. And I'm thinking next year is going to be very, very crucial to watch.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I guess we'll see. So what you got here? You got some something about the Fed system shutting down.
Yeah, so it seems like there was an outage. I think during the week, this past week. It was the same week that the Fed chairman Jerome Powell spoke to the Capitol Hill legislators about the progress of central bank and how they were doing that consumer focused payment system, basically a digital dollar. And
is this like the government trying to compete with cryptocurrencies so that they can keep their little leash on it?
So it seems like they're trying to digitalize their currency, which there really is already, if you think about it.
Well, yeah, that's how they get the money for these relief bills. They're not actually printing anything. We talked about that last week too.
But I just don't know how this is going to play out. So they're trying to get rid of the physical dollar, which is obviously harder to track. You can see the benefits of that as far as drug money or anything of the sort that's illegal. It's just harder to track that way. But now if you're doing it to a digital and you're trying to roll everything out that way, how is that going to play out with people who can't afford, for example, a smartphone?
Yeah. Also, how is that going to affect other things? Like, I mean, I could see it not really affecting Bitcoin and whatnot because that's more of a universal fund. But services like Venmo and QuickPay and this and that, and all these paid services or advertised services, are they still going to use those? I mean, because I know there are definitely a lot of people that do use those services to transact money for maybe crafts or just trading money between people. I mean, but also like you can't really track the intent of those things. So.
Yeah, so I think by doing this, you are going to help obviously a transfer of wealth. You're going to be able to help things be more expedited. So, for example, like your stimulus, everyone's going to be digital, so it's going to be faster. When you transact even through Wall Street, when you're trying to sell or exchange a stock, you're trying to cash out, things like that. But I just don't see how people are going to move away from a physical form of transaction unless the government decides to give everyone a stipend for their, for them to go out and get a phone or something.
I think it's more than that though, because I mean, you can assume that even if the government gave everyone phones, not everyone's going to have the learning curve, or like some people don't have the functionality to use them. Like my grandmother, one, wouldn't know how to use a smartphone, and two, she has really bad arthritis. She wouldn't even be able to use it with her hands.
Right, there's that too. Yeah. So this should be interesting.
But, yeah, we'll see.
So on the next topic we have your favorite topic.
Yay, Tesla.
So what's going on with Tesla now?
So I had seen this article about not necessarily just Tesla. It's about EV cars that are produced in this country, which typically right now the hottest one is Tesla. I think Tesla is probably the hottest EV in the world, except maybe the new Mustang. So this is basically saying that they had originally, I think in 2018, had put out a tax rebate to incite people to purchase these electric vehicles, but it was very short lived So now apparently there's a newly proposed bill that, if it makes it through, is going to extend this Electric Cars Act for another 10 years, which would be definitely greatly great, creating a great desire for people to go out and buy these electric cars. And the issue is that because the incentive was lost in terms of American EV makers, a lot of people were probably driven to purchase electric vehicles from Asia, which are significantly cheaper, even with import fees.
Right.
So it sounds like, I mean, even though we all know Tesla's been killing it, yes and no, it's kind of taken a dive lately. I guess we'll look into that in a little bit. But Tesla has been doing really well even without this. So I think that in terms of them specifically, once and if this gets passed, that you have a $7,500 tax credit that if I go out and buy a $36,000 car, which is I believe Tesla's lowest costing model, that's a huge incentive to go out and switch. I mean, especially living near larger, more urban areas, you've got these Tesla charging stations everywhere. It's definitely a huge incentive, and I think it has the potential to, from a fundamentals perspective, really boost Tesla's profitability, their revenue, and potentially even their stock. But again, I know it's not all about fundamentals. So.
So in looking at the bill though, you this is not necessarily directed towards Tesla. So this is open to
any EVs.
Right. So my I guess rebuttal to your Tesla positivity. What would you say about GM and Ford and all those quote unquote bigger companies before Tesla, car makers?
I think Tesla has just something unique about it, whether it be its marketing, branding, even just the CEO, how he kind of is like this awkward Tony Stark. Like he's very awkward, but he doesn't even really care. Like, he's smoking weed with Joe Rogan, he's drinking whiskey online, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's so stupid. Why would you do that? How are you judge him? He started 3 companies. Well, he started a few companies from scratch, somehow just overtook Tesla because he didn't. And to my ignorance, I thought he started Tesla, and I later found out by researching the company that he didn't. He just he was an engineer there, became a CEO, and I guess basically bought them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like the guy has his stuff together. Like if he wants to go online with Joe Rogan and smoke a joint in a totally legal fashion, let him do it. Who cares? But everyone was like, and I mean, guess what happened? That's once his stock started blowing up right after that. And now everyone's like, oh, he made a tweet about, KFC. Let's go buy 50 million shares. So people give him the credit he deserves, and I think he does deserve it. But there's something clearly unique about what he's doing with Tesla, because electric cars have been around for well over 100 years, and all these other companies, GM, Ford, I don't know about Ford so much, but I know GM already has electric cars, so I don't think, maybe if GM makes like a really, really cool, I would say Camaro. I just don't like the Camaros. Maybe if they brought back the Chevelle and made it, a 14 gigawatt all-wheel drive Chevelle, is totally electric. I'd be all about that, but like, the electric Mustang's cool. It's ugly though. It's so stupid looking. They've tried to make it look like a Mustang Tesla. I don't know why the electric car has to be a hatchback, but that's fine. Whatever. But I mean, Honda's had electric cars for a while. Toyota's had electric cars, and it's nothing new.
Now you did mention something interesting. So Tesla has been rising up a lot, and a lot of their popularity or growth is, if once you think about it, is really coming from Elon. He's a great salesman. He's a good business person.
Yeah.
And he is just promoting his brand really. They've been making pretty much the same car for a few years now, but you also see and I'm just pointing out the other side of the coin here. So Ford and GM, they've been announcing massive investments in next generation technology, and
Hmm.
they're looking to hold a huge market share of leads over EV competitors such as Tesla. And you also got to consider they do have strong ties with the government.
So yeah, and more to your point, there um, there's a Chinese car that GM partnered with this. I think the government actually that's making it's a $4,500 EV.
Interesting.
Let me try to find it real quick.
I bought it just for fun.
I mean, it's very small, but yeah. So it's a $4,500. It's apparently outselling Tesla's cars, and it's a joint venture with U.S. car giant General Motors, as well as this Chinese company Hongguang. I don't know, I'm not sure.
What's your name?
But it's pretty nuts. I mean, for $4,500, you could have a car that, you know, it's not very fast or super efficient, but it's fully electric, and yeah, that's pretty cool. But it speaks to what you were saying about how, you know, yeah, GM and Ford and diesel. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. I don't know too much about how Chrysler's doing anymore, but they have these massive government ties. I mean, you know, back when they had the bailouts for the car companies, I didn't understand any of that, because have you ever seen a police car in this country that wasn't a Ford or Chevy? Excuse me,
Yes,
or Dodge?
I've seen a Prius in the city.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Those are auxiliary cops. They don't count. They don't even have guns.
Oh, you mean like chase, like state
Real,
trooper, things like that?
yeah. You don't see townies. You don't see. I mean, you know, the best thing you'll see is you might see a Challenger police car. You might, but that's still a Dodge. It's still an American company. You know, it's something of a statement of pride. So when they're like, "Oh, we're not going to make cars anymore," or "We're, you know, the government has to bail us out," the heck? I
Yeah, they
mean,
got that. Where did they get
every
that
single
bell? I was
taxi.
like, sorry,
That
go ahead.
was no, that was like what two? That was many years ago. I think that was right after the 2008 thing. No,
Yeah,
I don't remember.
the housing market thing. Yeah, it was like 40 billion or something like that. I forget. But I mean, the reason I'm bringing up Ford is that they're vowing to phase out their gas vehicles by 2030 in Europe, and they're
Yeah,
investing like over $29 billion for EVs through 2025. So true that they are basically playing catch up with Tesla and these other EVs, but they do have a giant footprint, even though their evaluation isn't as big as Tesla currently.
I don't know. I don't see it happening. I mean, I think Tesla's making really big moves. I mean, they're already in China. They're, you know, Ford, yeah, maybe has
They're
good
trying to
ties with the
diversify.
government.
They're trying to
Ford, yeah,
diversify. No,
but
Tesla, I mean.
yeah, and Tesla, it's not like I had mentioned. You know, it's not like they're just making cars. They have electricity is like. I mean, we all know Nikola Tesla. That's who his focus was. So I think that there's a much bigger picture here. In terms of Tesla, I think cars was just the beginning. Don't forget they have the semis that they're working on. That's way out of league for Ford. Way out of league.
That's true.
You only have two major companies right now, and they're not even major. Well, Tesla's major, but the other one, Nikola. I mean,
But have
most
they
people don't
really
probably don't even.
produced anything?
I believe so. I'd have to do more research on that, but I know Nikola is obviously two names of the same guy. But Nikola has hydrogen-powered semis that they're working on, which is even a further step. But those are just extremely dangerous because those are like massively combustible.
Yeah.
So
And well, we got to see, but
yeah,
I just want to say a point on electric vehicles. I personally, and this is just my opinion here, as I don't have articles or um, facts to point in the screen right now, but I don't think electric vehicles is the way to go, because if you think about the battery itself is more polluting than the gas powered vehicles themselves.
Yeah, and then also to create those, I think a lot of people get hung up on the idea of the end product being green, but
Right.
the whole path to get there is not green.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, though, I still think that Tesla has. I mean, there's unnecessary. There's undeniable evils that you're going to have to go through. We don't have the capability to start from scratch and be like, well, I'm going to rub these two sticks together, make a fire, and that fire is going to power a steam engine that I built by hand from scratch with, all totally sustainable materials. Like, it's not going to happen like that. We're going to have to burn through fossil fuels to get to a point where we make everything we need to get to a greener point. Like, it's inevitable. I mean,
Right. We have to invest more into the technology to get it to
right.
that point.
Yeah, but there should be a point of singularity where we hit that we have so much producibility, so much efficient producibility with green technology that we're not indenting the environment so much. And then just maybe we'll have the possibility to start to correct all of the hundreds of years of damage that we've been doing to this planet. But that's let's have a philosophy channel. We'll get into that.
Yeah, and regardless of which way you look at it, and what the actual right answer is or path, it's going to take time.
Absolutely. It's going to, at some point, it's going to become a race in time, though, because I don't see, us, especially with this tree thing, like 70,000 acres to me. I can't even imagine what that looks like, from an ownership perspective, and all those trees, and like, I feel like just as humans, we just take for granted and advantage of everything that we use and where it comes from. We're just destroying this planet.
On the point of Tesla, though, most of the comments were on the fundamental side. Now, I posed something to you to kind of debate on here. So, if you're looking at the charts of Tesla, and we will get into that, they're looking at the long term in comparison to, again, I'm just pointing out the bigger names here, that everyone knows, I guess. GM, Ford. If looking at those in comparison to Tesla, yes, the stocks of GM and Ford have been on a downtrend, but they're lower valuations right now, while they are investing heavily into the EV, while this new administration is supporting them. Well, the market in general, but also them. And seeing as they've gotten bailouts before, was to say that they're going to get the most support as opposed to Tesla. Granted, Tesla has a lot of marketing behind them, which contributes to the rise. But if looking at the charts themselves from a technical analysis point of view, it seems that, this is my personal view on that, it seems that you already have those gains done. Like there's this whole rise, you're basically taking advantage of the gains are to get in the future. So it's almost like we are due for not to say a bear market, but just a pullback and consolidation for years to come, maybe 5 years, 3 to 5 years, and then further upside. I'm not saying that the Tesla company is a bad company by far. I'm not saying that. However, the stock itself, I feel like you already have those gains from the future taken now. Whereas GM and Ford, you have more potential of getting those gains as time goes on.
Yeah.
So I wonder what your thoughts are.
I think we can probably talk more about that as we look at the stocks themselves and the history. I mean, obviously, Tesla was overbought. It's obvious. I mean, there's really no solid explanation for why, it hit a point higher, than it had just exponential growth this past year, and obviously it was a benefit to many people, but it all good things are bound to come to an end. I don't think it's over yet for Tesla, but I definitely see it kind of stabilizing a little more, and then hopefully, from a fundamental news-based concept, I think it'll probably grow more. I mean, it feels like the company is just barely getting started. I mean, they just put out a concept car, the Roadster, which was basically a Lotus Elise,
Yeah,
like 10 years ago or something like that, but that wasn't even a public company then.
right. Now, all these things are very positive. Do you have a bearish case?
Yeah, people just realized that it was blown out of proportion or it's a failure. I mean, SpaceX is not part of the public offered company, but it obviously affects the stock, and SpaceX is trying to do things too, and they had a failure a couple months ago with the rocket that just blew up as soon as it launched, and
Yeah, I think that was a test, though. I think that was actually meant to do that.
well, I remember hearing Elon saying, "Yeah, we figured it was going to do that." We were just hoping it didn't. But that had a slight negative effect on the stock, and then it just went back up. So I don't know. We'll see. I do agree that it was bound to start coming back down, because it was. I mean, it almost hit. I think what was the highest it hit? Close to 1,000 after the split.
After the split, 900. Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
Hey, well, we'll get into that with the charts, like you said.
yeah.
Do you have anything else for the viewers?
No, I think it's good. We're going into the charts and let you drive.